Absolutely brilliant then as it finishes Chelsea 3, Aston Villa 0. Chelsea level on points with Arsenal sitting in second place. How far they've come, Craig?
Oh, it's incredible. And, you know, talking about the title race, I don't know if I think that's a stretch to put them in that in terms of where they've came from, but they're in a much better shape than Manchester City. And if you'd have said that at the start of the season, we'd all have got laughed at. Said Chelsea,
especially after pre-season.
If we'd have said Man City would be a shambles coming into December and Chelsea were organised, you got laughed off this studio set. But that's where we are. And it comes down to, the buck stops with one person, and it's the manager. Mm-hmm. He made some big decisions in the summer. He upset Raheem Sterling. He threw a few others, not out the training ground, but off to train with the kids, like it used to happen in the old days. You lot go and train over there. I don't care if you're upset. And he said, this is the core of players that I'm going to try and work with. And he's getting a tune out of them. They're Caicedo's been excellent. Lavia's back fit again after a bad time last year. Caicedo played it right back today, which I saw him do for Brighton a couple of times, but he's been excellent in the middle of the park. And the changes in the wide positions have worked as well, because Madueke's been playing well. Maybe just gone off the cuff recently a bit. Neto's looked sharp, getting some game time, put some good balls into the box. And Sancho comes in today and plays. So they're looking a really, really, dare I say it, well-drilled outfit now. They're a fair step, I think, behind the two that are going to be running for the title in Arsenal and Liverpool. But from where they were, they're playing good football. They're getting Cole Palmer into the game. The midfield, like Liverpool, not as strong, but it's strong. And they're actually defensively looking a lot better. Because at the start of the season, you remember the Brighton game at home? Yeah, they're all over the shop. I mean, it was a shambles. Yeah. It was sort of playground stuff.
Both of them, wasn't it?
Yeah, both of them were just taking too many chances, leaving themselves open. But they've clearly worked on that. And, yeah, they were playing a Villa side that are... Can I be fair to them and say maybe they're just struggling with the Champions League and the league? Maybe that's what it is. But I think there's just too many of them off form. And most teams take chances at the back now, playing out from the back. But what we saw today from Aston Villa was just way over the top. At times it needed to be lumped forward and squeeze the game up. And, they got what they deserved today. Absolutely nothing.
You look at Chelsea, I think they made 10 changes in Europe midweek. Yeah. We're able to have those almost kind of two separate teams, which is ideal, isn't it, for this sort of run? Not only with what's going on midweek, but you've also got players who have got some playing time under their belt coming on as substitutes as well.
It's the conference as well, isn't it?
Yes.
I don't think again we can underestimate how good that Maresca's been. You know, I think you nailed it when you said a well-oiled machine, because there wasn't one of us was complaining about the talent they had, the amount of talent. We complained about how many players they had, but we didn't complain about individuals not being talented.
I think we wanted to strike it, didn't we? I think that was kind of the rhetoric.
Yeah, but the rest of it, absolutely. But we didn't know what they were doing. We couldn't sit and watch and tell you what they're up to. But under Maresca, everybody seems to know exactly what's expected of them. They know where to be when they should be. They're making good decisions. You've got Cole Palmer there who's running the show. And so they look as though they are, what you said, a well-oiled machine, as does the second team. So clearly he hasn't just shoved everybody to the side and he's only working with a certain amount. Clearly he's working with the rest of the group as well, because he knows that if and when he gets some injuries, he's going to have to bring some people in. So you can't afford to get rid of everybody. You have to make sure you look after a certain amount, because you're always going to need them.
And Cole Palmer's second quickest Chelsea player ever to get to 30 goals.
It's incredible, isn't it?
And what's interesting, I think, about him last season, he was kind of the shining light from what was overall poor Chelsea. But everyone's getting better around him as well now.
And if you just look at this list, they're all renowned international strikers.
Yeah.
He's not. He's a playmaker. He's a number 10. He's a guy that picks a pass, and he's also a guy that was offloaded by Manchester City, and that's a dent to anybody's confidence, no matter if you were 40 million as he was or not. That's still a dent, you know, because City were the team to be at, weren't they? And when the manager doesn't want you, and he's made that pretty clear, then that can dent a young player in particular's confidence, but it hasn't. It's gone the opposite way. And in some ways, what happened to them in match day 1 was a good thing. They got beaten comfortably in terms of the actual game by Man City. Cole Palmer was played on the right, because Maresca was trying to do things his way, was never in the game. Chelsea were never in the game. And since that game, when we all sat here and went, well, listen, Cole Palmer is a guy you play in the middle. That's where he did his damage last year. And if Maresca's going to try and change that and put him out there, you're going to lose him. And so I think he quickly realised in that City game, right, I need to have a rethink of what I'm doing, where I can get the best out of Cole Palmer. I need wide guys in the wide positions and my playmakers in the middle of the park, which is common sense. And I think he got a taste of that in the first league game of the season at home to Man City. And that was the best thing that could have happened to them, because you're right, all right, he must have thought, the manager, I've got to just get this guy in the number 10 position and then we fill everything around him, not the opposite way. And it's worked brilliantly for them. Don't get me wrong, everything else around him is better, but when he gets on the ball, something's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's going to be a pass, you know, a diagonal, a strike at goal. Something's going to happen every time he gets on the ball.
I've got to tell you, I'm shocked at Jackson scoring so many goals. I really am. Because I still struggle to think that he's actually a top-class centre-forward. But the problem is, when you look at the numbers, that's how he's performing in terms of putting the ball in the back of the net. I'm not quite there yet, but he really had surprises.
It's his link-up play as well, which is, and Maresca's talked about it, dropping into the midfield, which he didn't do so much today. He didn't have to. They bossed the game that much. It's his all-round game. Plus, he's got a bit of power and a bit of pace about him as well. So when you add those ingredients in to the fact he's now getting more than his fair share of goals that most of us didn't think he was going to be capable of, it's one less thing for Maresca to have to worry about.
Meanwhile, for Aston Villa, maybe it is a little bit too much. Champions League midweek, they slipped down to 12th in the table now. Amorim, 4-0, first home game in the Premier League at Old Trafford. You get all 3 points. You take a look at how things look. Manchester United are in the top half of the table now. They move to 9th, 4 points off a top 4 place, 4 points
That's amazing.
Off Manchester City.
That's amazing to think about how tight that is for 4th spot.
It's great.
Even 3rd spot's not a million. I mean, they're not going to get, I don't think they're going to get there, but to just look at that.
Yep.
If you'd said to me, right, how far off are Man United after the season have had off the top? Without looking at a table, I would have said 10 or 12 points.
Yep.
Just guessing. But it is actually so tight in there, which I'm sure Eric Ten Hag will be sitting saying, I could have made that gap up. No, you couldn't. So at least they've got a fresh face in. We know which way they're playing 3 at the back, playing wing backs. Going to try and get 2 forwards on when they can. There's a lot of work to do, but it's a positive start, and there's a little bit of positivity about Old Trafford.
A little bit of a lift.
Doom and gloom every week, and listening to that manager
2 cups
prattling on about the cups and about progress and all this sort of stuff. And look, this guy, I'll know there's a lot of work to do, and Everton have clearly helped him along in this. But you've still got to go out there and get the results. They've got Arsenal this week.
Yes, a midweek game on
midweek.
Wednesday.
That's going to be. They're not going to be seen as anywhere near as much of the ball in that game, and you know he's going to. They're going to have to defend and show that they are able to still be a unit, and they have a good shape, and that's all the things he's going to be working on. But we're going to find out just how much they've learned in a short space of time when they play Arsenal in midweek.
You take a look at the formation you mentioned, of course, Rashford in that starting 11. He would get a brace here today, and it was clear to see, wasn't it, there was a disconnect between Rashford and Ten Hag. Yet the England international with a brace today, of course, scored as well under Amorim since he came over and took over from Sporting. This is what he had to say, the England international, when asked about the impact. Amorim's come in a busy period, and hopefully the connection keeps building and growing. He's come in with a great attitude, and it's passed on to the players. I'm intrigued by this because why is Rashford better or happier or more confident or more positive under Amorim when he wasn't under Ten Hag? And surely as a professional footballer, it doesn't matter who's in charge, I should still be going out there and doing my best.
I don't like the rhetoric that comes out, and I don't like the things he's saying either. But the fact is that the way that Amorim seems to have them playing, it's a lot more open, and it feeds into what this guy does best.
Right.
And that is using his pace to run at defenders. And so when it's all positive and it's, okay, we want to go forward and we want to get a Euroball, we want to get you isolated with defenders so you can take them on, and we want you running in behind. You know, so for Rashford himself, it's almost like Amorim's come in and said, I'm going to look after you, we're going to play to your strengths. I mean, for a player, particularly a forward, particularly a guy who's been struggling under the last manager, to have somebody come in and basically set the team up, or it looks like he's setting the team up, because this is how Rashford's thinking. This guy's setting the team up to suit me. He's going to get the best out of me because I'm going to be able to run at people and I'm going to get in behind and I'm going to do all these things going forward. So you can understand Rashford's thought process. However, he shouldn't be saying that because it looks bad on himself and it looks bad on the previous manager.
You wouldn't trust him, would you?
I know, you tell me. You've been there, boys. I don't know.
I'm not trusting Marcus Rashford, right? I bet Cristiano Ronaldo apart, I bet you could go back and dig out some quotes from the archives from Marcus Rashford and probably a few others talking in those terms about Eric Ten Hag. I bet you could at the start. Everything. The training's fantastic. It's really positive. And same stuff. Cut and paste. New manager comes in. It's fantastic. This is great. He really likes the way I'm doing things and I'm happy. And there is a bit of that about, you know, where was the attitude? And he was, and the reason we talk about him a lot is because he was the guy that signed a new contract after that stellar season and all the goals. And then let's be honest, he switched off. He switched off. He wasn't bothered. And you can look back at a lot of games and pick out big games where he's not even tracking back. So this is all just, you know, waffle at the moment with a new manager coming in. Because the same thing was said when Ten Hag came in, he got off to a bad start, but then he picked it up. When they started playing well, he was the greatest thing since sliced bread. When they started losing games, Man United, they started struggling, then all these murmurings and rumours from people behind the scenes were getting leaked out. So let's give it time before we anoint anybody as a player who's back or a manager who's going to do great things. I think he'll do good things, Ruben Amorim at Manchester United, but only if they recruit players that are going to want to do it week in, week out, and he can trust. And most of these, he's getting a tune out of them at the moment, but long term, he's not going to be able to trust the bulk of these players.
Anything you want to add?
History repeating itself. Done.
Good. So 1-1 Kenny will be sent off late on in the game, but in the end, the spoils were shared. Stevie, I know you were focusing on this tie. Same old Spurs, great result against City, and just can't keep that momentum going.
Fulham completely and utterly outplayed them. And as I said, Foster was man of the match, you know, making saves. And you look at the table again, they're only 4 points behind the full spot for Tottenham. But as I said, today they were completely, totally and utterly outplayed.
What was wrong with them?
They couldn't get anywhere close to the ball. You know, you think of Tottenham and you think of the energy and the desire and the hustle and the whole thing. It wasn't there. That desire to close the ball down wasn't there. Either that or Fulham were just having one of those days where every one of them just was at the best. But yeah, Tottenham were so poor, and if there was one thing Fulham really showed, is that in the middle of the park, we're talking about City and other teams not getting around defensively. Tottenham defensively in the middle of the park were absolutely atrocious. Fulham got at the back four as often and as quickly as they wanted to.
I'd imagine that's not the first in this season. Tottenham.
No.
Been so open in the middle of the park, which has been a huge criticism. But he's done a great job, hasn't he, Marco Silva at Fulham? You talk about guys under the radar. I mean, obviously had his chance when he went to Everton, but Everton's been a graveyard for managers. That's not a true reflection, I think, on him.
Just like Carlo Ancelotti. I think you're right.
Well, he said he's still an Evertonian the other day. But for Tottenham, this isn't a lot different to midweek. They got outplayed in the end by Roma.
But at least there was a bit of spark midweek. There was a little bit of fight. You know, there were some good chances.
Yeah, but they were hanging on against a Roma side that had three managers, and their away record was absolutely dreadful. And it was very similar in the sense that Roma just kept getting out their back four, time after time, particularly in the second half. And it is a head scratcher for Tottenham in terms of where are they going to finish this year, because On their good day, they're really good.
Yeah.
And on the average days, they're bad. So again, I think if you speak to some of the Tottenham fans, a lot of things. One of the words that I keep saying now is balance. We just wish there was a little bit more balance. And I think that's a criticism of Postecoglou. He sort of bats it away. Well, it's an entertainment business. And it is to an extent, but when you're throwing away as many leads as they have this season, then that's a concern.
You said earlier about Liverpool. They've shown there's different ways that they can skin a cat. That was your exact words. Unfortunately for Tottenham, they only have that one way, and we've tried to give Postecoglou a lot of time to get past that initial 10 game when they were sitting top of the league because of the way they played, but they haven't changed the way they played. And unfortunately, unless every one of them is bursting a gut, the veins are coming out of their neck when the game starts and they're getting after everybody and running at 100 miles an hour. Unless they do that, they're not beating anybody. And that can't be right. You can't win anything by hoping that you turn up and everybody is 100% at it.